No, on the tip.
Right.
Yeah, Independence Express.
We're good.
Oh,
Check.
I know exactly what she's talking
yeah, I just drove through it yesterday.
about. And you can actually drive out of the parking lot and go over it, because it's a smooth curve.
Yeah.
It's not nose.
Right.
It gives you a joy.
You know exactly what she's talking about.
I just drove through it yesterday.
You can actually drive out of the parking lot
Yeah,
and go over it. It's a smooth curve.
Yeah.
It's not nose.
Like, we're delayed.
Yeah. All right, let's try that. Here we go. I think we've had that before. Just because we're both a participant and video, so but I'll check on here, make sure it's working.
All right, it is 4:32. And we'll go ahead and call the Strategic Planning Committee meeting February 6th to order.
And we're live.
And we're live. Very good. Welcome back, everybody. It's been quite a while since we've been together as a committee. Gosh, I can't remember what was the last meeting we had, Jacqueline, back before Christmas.
End of November.
Was it November?
So I think we were gonna have one December 3rd and we canceled it and we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been,
So I should be all charged up and have 2 months of rest.
ready to go.
Let's go.
So, and Beth contacted me. She was not feeling well, so she will be absent today. I suspect she'll be absent from tonight's meeting also. Feeling the pain, struggling with a cold myself. So, Jim, you had asked for a point of order at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, before you get into what's going on, I guess I want to put into the record as a point of order. I guess it's a concern with regards to not only Robert's Rules of Order, but regards to the Open Meeting Act and the training that I received. I'm concerned, this isn't the RFP we're dealing with now. It's not an RFP process or an RFQ process. This is an actual work session with regard to the strategic plan. And the matrix that is being used was filled out, wasn't officially vetted and approved by this committee. The using email to request the information and to basically vote by what at that point in time would have been a secret ballot, in essence, in my opinion, from how it happened. And I expressed that on December 6th through email, and I know I copied you, Chairman Wiltzer, on that. Also with regard to making sure everything's available so that this body's business is public business and aware to the public. The agenda that was published says only review tasks, I think is the wording on the agenda. It doesn't provide the information that was assembled and done via email. It doesn't provide detail as to what is actually really going to happen. I think you said yourself just a moment ago, it's a small attendance, or that might be attributable to the fact that the agenda is not clear as to what we're doing today. So with the fact that, and that not a proper agenda was circulated, and with regard to how this process has evolved to get to this sheet here today, I understand that a lot of work went into it, but I want the record to show that I don't believe this meeting is appropriate in this format, the way we've come to it. And I do not wish to be listed as an abstaining member of this committee if you guys proceed with pursuing reviewing this document today. Depending what you do will depend on whether I remain or excuse myself.
So Jim, you said this was after some sunshine law training. So can you fill us in on what?
I think you guys have all taken the same training I have taken with regard to open
Yes, but we've
meetings
had
laws.
meetings like this similar in the past, and you've not raised
No.
these concerns.
We have
So that is not true. That is very true.
And I'm not going to debate it, so it's, my opinion is, my opinion, I am not comfortable as an elected official. I don't believe this has been done properly. I am for finishing up what you guys like to do. We have a strategic plan in place, which is wonderful. But as a point of order, how we've gotten to this moment, I don't think is appropriate.
So if I may, for the open meetings and open records, because this is a standing meeting, we can discuss anything related to the committee at the meeting. Additionally, it's my understanding, we gathered information, however, we do have it to share publicly and do have the detailed responses from those members who provided it. Therefore, and I can share it on Zoom. I know how to do these things. So here is the summary sheet for those, and I believe that Councilman Wurtzer and Mr. Stashak did not respond. However, the other members that did provide it, per the last meeting, we discussed, saying, okay, which committee should it be discussed at? Should it be discussed by somebody else? So the topics at the top were discussed at the meeting, though a formal vote was not taken. Everybody agreed that those should be the categories and that the group would want to see it in this format to gather the information. This is publicly available for anyone who would like to request it, as well as the meeting is being live streamed. The meeting was published appropriately. So for those reasons, I have no concern with the process that got us to this point and being able to continue with discussion this evening.
Sir.
I guess a couple follows to that. I anticipated that response. No, not everyone agreed because I didn't agree. So I'm one of everyone. And two, because the matrix was never formally approved by this committee, and because of the method that it was acquired, the information was acquired, it could be appeared, and I believe that this is designed to limit discussion, and that's inappropriate. So based on that, and based on my other comments, I'm just not comfortable with this. So I guess it would be best if I excuse myself, but I want the record to reflect that I believe I have valid reasons for doing so. We should all look at your decision.
I do have actually a follow-up question based off of that. Do you believe other does not provide an opportunity to provide other comments?
I have no idea what you're asking me, but I've made my comments, so thank you.
Very good. Have a good evening. See you at council. Oh, can I get a hard copy? That's fine. That's okay. So would you like me to bring up the document? All right. So I believe what we have, we wanted to just have some discussion on, as was discussed at the last meeting, we have a couple of items. So the framework, the goals and objectives obviously are the adopted document at this point. What we've been discussing over the last couple of months was how we wanted to handle putting the leaves on the tree for those action item level items. So to gather the information, just to have some more discussion, we sent out the structure of, okay, if we were assigning them to council committees, what would that look like? Just the administration kind of take the lead, and then bringing these back again. If you recall the process document that was circulated, golly, quite a while ago now, also reflects, and let me share that for a moment. Again, this was discussed, but not ever really, got too many share screens, new screen. Would be, okay, do we assign it to a committee? The administration gather information, take it to the committees, then the committees would evaluate, then it goes through the adoption process. And depending on the level of item, it may go to multiple committees, it may come back to strategic planning. So that is kind of what we based it off of. As you look at then the feedback that was received, again, the detail is available for anyone who would like to see it. The majority of feedback said, hey, let's have the administration start gathering information on each of these items and then bring them back to the different committees, kind of through our normal process for consideration. And again, strategic planning would serve as one of those committees. It would then, if necessary, go to council for full approval, either through the committee report or obviously the legislative process, depending on what it was. And through that process, then council could determine if it's something that we just want to take care of in the normal course of business, or if it is an item that should specifically be memorialized within the strategic planning document. So I think that that's kind of how we got to today. I don't know if folks have specific feedback on any of these, or if the sentiment is, but I won't even try to put words in anybody's mouth. Thoughts?
I'm actually trying to bring up the spreadsheet I sent Chad. I thought that a lot of these,
I have yours, sir.
I thought, yeah, they're good. I listed ad hoc for quite a many of these, and I don't see that reflected in what was passed out. I think some of these items don't fit neatly into the four standing committees of council, and but are worthy of consideration. I keep going back to the same one. There's some conversation about trash service or how we provide recycling and trash service in the city. And I think that that's an item that deserves consideration, but would you put it, where would you put it? Is it Parks and Rec? No. Appropriations? Streets and sidewalks? No. Water and sewer, which is utilities? Possibly, but it really lends itself to an ad hoc committee being formed to study this one specific question, and obviously the administration would be at the table. And I think that process needs to be, I think that we should be considering that for a lot of these versus trying to avoid going to the ad hoc. So that was where I was doing other with ad hoc, and I didn't see that it related. Is there a reason that the other columns didn't get populated?
No, it was really just when we were doing the counts, we didn't list because there was different members had different comments in there, right? So some had the Alliance, HRPC. So there was no good way to kind of culminate it. And since we were going to include it in the document, we didn't feel a need to kind of try to piece all of those into the comment section.
I'm interested in what others think about the fact that some of these just don't fit. And is there a concern about going to the ad hoc process for some of these?
I think as I was filling them out, I kind of put them in where I thought they'd go, but I'm thinking same as you did. Yeah, maybe it doesn't really go there, you know. But out of these categories, that's probably the best one of the 6 categories. Should it be there? Maybe not, but it doesn't have a place to go.
And I think it's a good thing to remember that pretty much, and on mine was a little messy because I selected multiple and pretty much all of them, right? Because at some point you're going to talk about money. At some point you might talk about water and sewer. Like, so there definitely is going to be crossover. I think the main thing is like somebody has to run point to gather the information and kind of structure the conversation. So that's why I think we can kind of, the administration can probably start gathering information and then reach out to everybody and say, well, what are the priorities? Because like right now I'm actually making a priority list pretty much for every committee to say like, hey, here are some things that come up that I need you guys to take a look at. And we could do a similar process with these of like, hey, water and sewer, or you know, I love the ad hoc committee. I think Councilman Russell, you had that mentioned for like the ISO rating, right? Well, obviously an ad hoc committee would be bringing in the police and fire department, and then at times water, PD for dispatch. So you're going to bring in the different resources at different times. I think the big thing is just determining which ones are worth consideration and how that occurs.
Well, the which ones are worth consideration is prioritization. In my mind, it's a prioritization of which one of these, which of the items do you tackle first. The intent of this was not to do every single thing on this on this list. all starting on day one. This is a 5-year, 10-year plan, but there are some that are low hanging fruit. There are some that are, had more support behind them. So I think that's a little bit of a different question than, for lack of a better term, who runs point on it. Yeah, and like, I think I had administration for pretty much everything, because of course the administration has to be involved in it.
And I just scrolled, sorry, I was probably a little distracted to you folks, but I just was scrolling through them for anybody who's watching at home,
You know,
and they'll be posted with our minutes as well.
can I take you on a tangent? Small.
Go, sure. Give you a little leeway.
I emailed the mayor and Jeff about a suggestion about the makeup of this committee, and I know I've talked with you about it. Is that now that we're in implementation, to give consideration to changing the makeup of this committee to being the chairs of the standing committees, plus administration representatives, because we're now into an implementation phase. And let the committee chairs and the administration look at the prioritization of which ones they want to tackle, and which ones they want to tackle first. And I think it kind of goes, it lends itself to this because, you know, we got the standing committees, we're trying to put it in people's pockets, but why not then have the committee chairs do it? Because I want to start implementing, I want to start digging in on some of these and delivering the things that the citizens have asked us to consider. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea, Frank, when you brought that up, when we talked about it earlier. I think it does make sense. I mean, we got through the initial phase, I shouldn't say the hard part. We got through the initial phase of getting the strategic plan put together. And maybe it is now time to evolve into a new format, because now we're going to have to deal with not only this part, but also anything new that comes to the table. And one of the things that we want to be able to do is, you know, if it's considered, you know, that would help with the, you know, how do you introduce something to the strategic plan in that process? You guys remember this, we didn't formalize this yet, but we're still in process. But, you know, if we have that grant outlined as the strategic planning committee, then everybody essentially is represented, each one of the communities. And so that would be a good place for anything new to start there. And then that group can decide what channel it needs to head down for consideration, for further consideration. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Your strategic planning committee starts potentially the meeting quarterly, because it's not, it's more.
Who's going to take this on?
Yeah, it's more overseeing, and the emphasis then turns into committee administration, tackling projects. Just and so on.
Well, with that in mind, we want to take a look, take a stab at what that looks like and what that new committee, and make that suggestion to council. That is something that we certainly solidify and take to them and have them codify. I think it makes a lot of sense.
And Grant, with that, do you still envision then, like myself and the auditor being voting members, or do you think that it makes sense for it just to be the council members and obviously the administration continues to advise? I think if you're going to change it, maybe that's
Haven't considered it. The administration has to be at the table.
right. But don't worry, you're not getting rid of that. Yeah, don't be here.
But a voting member, no, that makes a lot of sense at that point, because again, well, I guess it makes motions on that.
Yeah, and we don't need to make a decision on that right away. We can, again, if that's more kind of advisory, maybe it does make sense to keep us on it as well.
Well, to the great joy of Benny and Randy, the committee chairs right now, water and sewer is myself, appropriations, Jeff, streets and sidewalk is Josh, and planning and zoning is Brian. So this would be your hall pass.
I think it's a great idea.
I was gonna say, Brandy and Dennis are gonna make a
Jail
motion.
card.
So moved.
I think it makes sense to. Really do to, because instead of us sending something to a committee and then not even having any idea of what's going on. Just say, okay, here, you guys have to do this now. How did that get here? What's that for? I think having the chairman of those committees on makes it much cleaner and gives them the opportunity to work at what they need to have done. It makes more sense to me to have that.
And then this provides a great guide as to where we think we should be going with these things, but as you look at it, you're right, some of these are gonna bounce from, it's gonna require multiple different organizations to, at different times to take them.
And part of it may have to go to one committee, them vet through what they need, make their suggestions, and it may have to go to them.
Yeah.
To have before the final, and have, both committees give their opinions on what needs to be done, then move forward from it.
So we've got, so the four standing committees besides strategic planning, which is us. So there's four people there. Chair people coming on to the strategic planning committee. That's pretty much what we're at today. But we've got, if we went today, I'm duplicated. So as appropriations, would we look then to make strategic planning chair fifth? Well, it is a standing committee already, right? Whatever that means. I don't know if that's an official designation or not, but I would think that that should be a separate chair. So that you end up with 5 separate people on the committee from council versus 4 and 1 that's duplicated.
Just for my own clarification, are you then talking about these 4 or 5 committees here? Across the
Yes,
water and sewer, parks and recreation, streets and sidewalks, strategic planning and zoning.
we didn't have parks, with Parks and Recs be one.
Parks and Rec is not a standing committee.
It's not a committee, it's a
Right.
board.
It's a board, since we're actually, that committee is made up of a lot of different entities. Board. So that would not be.
Isn't Rob technically the chair of Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
So you have that representation to the administration. Yes, the standing committee as currently with, or the strategic planning is currently in our bylaws as a standing committee. I don't know necessarily that you're not getting out of the strategic planning committee chair. It's just because you're appropriations.
Well, we can just wrap Randy back in.
No, you could.
All 3 at large.
But to the conclusion,
Realistically, Jeff, I don't know that you would automatically preclude the strategic planning committee chair from being one of the other standing committees chairs. If we only have 4 council reps, we have 4 council reps. If we had 5, we had 5.
Would we want to, though, as if you look at things ongoing, in that situation, would we want to add an additional person in case there is a duplication there?
I personally,
Because you're losing a vote.
so
Understood? What do you guys think? Then,
I'm I'm fine with it. Go with that. It's probably better than any other suggestions or alternatives. Creating an ad hoc committee, but I just assume it's fitting. Yeah. That we have.
And I still think we need to have administrative,
Overseer.
not overseer.
Overlord.
Absolutely.
Yeah, administration needs to have a seat, as does the auditor. Doesn't anybody else? Regional planning, you know, that was a point of contention early on as a voting member.
I definitely think that with the number of these topics, it's gonna be, that they're gonna need to be at the table. When you guys were discussing it, that was one thought I had, just because I think there is a lot of development and strategy and kind of missed conversations at times. That's worth considering.
Talking about the planning department.
Regional planning, pick up regional planning commission. So like having that,
Yeah, as a, and then I'm not trying to think of anybody else we're not considering in this.
I think the benefit of this, another benefit of this is if you have each committee represented on the strategic planning committee, that there's some ownership from the committee chair. When I say, I'll take a look at item 1.5A, the Dell, and I'll report back to this, I'll have a report back to the strategic planning committee / council with recommendations by X date. There's some ownership to it. Otherwise, stuff just never, we'll never get done. We'll never start. Or it'll be difficult, but not now. It's slowly and surely.
Administration and auditor as advisory or voting? Randy, thoughts?
Well,
It's a tough one. Any thoughts?
I know on that particular issue.
As always, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree that it will be at the table. There's no thought about that.
You know, in order to get them to the table, they need to be able to become. Feeling they have a say.
what are you voting on?
Well, long term, and that's kind of where I was starting to think too, Grant, was, you know, long term, instead of get through all this stuff and we're just on a normal flow. Somebody brings something to council for consideration, whatever that is. And that would be brought to strategic planning. That committee would then decide as you go forward or not. And that's when you would take a vote. And then it would go off to committee, more than likely then come back for approval before we go to council. I think that was ultimately right, council review and vote. So it would have to get through this committee once, if not twice.
Well, then, if that's the criteria, the auditor should not be a voting member because the auditor is elected to be the CFO of the organization. Council and mayor are elected to represent the citizens' interests. I mean, you're asking for the strategic planning group to make representative decisions. So according to the Hancock Regional Planning Director, when you have a vote, it could be advisory, but and which isn't saying I'm endorsing this, because I'm comfortable with that, but elected representatives should represent. And I really see strategic planning being the function of implementation at this point in time, in which case the auditor's participation is.
Yes.
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 I don't know.
And administration,
Yes,
voting or not,
the mayor's.
Yeah. with that criteria, I agree. I think the auditor would say he was elected too.
Well, he was elected, but he was elected to perform he wasn't elected to perform a representative function. He was elected to perform a financial function in support of the city.
And you could say the same.
with Fred.
And
I think I digress here on Ohio politics.
Mayor, thoughts?
That's a good one. I wasn't really planning to provide thoughts on.
Well,
Um,
as a part of the committee right now.
yeah, so I think having the committee chairs makes a lot of sense. Again, doing that, management of the committees and being able to say, yeah, we'll take that on and here's where it falls in our other priorities. On being a voting member versus non-voting, again, I think all of these things are going to go through council. I think administration is definitely providing guidance and the administrative support and the operational support, right? I think pulling in the different members, being a voting member on this committee or not, I think will be very engaged. So I'm not really concerned about that aspect of it. I definitely see Grant's point on each of the roles of the branches of government, and you guys being the representative and legislative branch and serving in executive branch. So I understand that kind of you guys bringing those forward and then working the process. I think probably at this point, to not shake it up too much, I would say modify the members to be the committee chairs, and let's give it a little time to work, and then we can evaluate. I think having regional planning come to some of the meetings would be beneficial to see how that plays out and if that makes sense. And then since I'm talking, I would say from an overall management moving forward, I think what would probably be beneficial is I haven't really gone through these in depth. We've kept the department heads and we've shared the document obviously with the department heads, but we haven't really gone through and said, yeah, we would prioritize these. And I think that that's something that would be beneficial to hear from the department heads on ones that would impact them. Some of these, looking at them, are things that we think as important, but they're not really any action items. They're something that we just need to be aware of. So I think we can probably start paring it down or cleaning it up a little bit, then to determine really what action needs to be taken on some of these for that kind of implementation level. So that's where I would really see our next step is going through these and probably providing back recommendations on prioritization to the group, and then you guys obviously all being able to determine, in essence, sitting around the table with the committee chairs saying, yeah, we want to take those ones on, and here's the timeline of when that's reasonable, because some of them might be like, yeah, we want to talk about it this year. Yeah, that's going to be in 5 years. And I think that would be helpful to start putting a little bit of time frames around them.
Have the committee chairs seen this document? Some of the items that are listed in there.
Well, the action item document obviously was available in previous versions of our minutes.
Yep.
They have not seen this document because this was just kind of to help for discussion purposes, but it will be obviously a part of the minutes so that it can be shared with them easily.
I guess the reason I asked about whether or not they would have any objection or input. I don't think the committee had anything on that, or our department had anything involved with that.
It probably should be a committee chair then.
Some way to look at it. Self-select that way, but just I thought I didn't know whether they would object to some of this. And maybe they don't have a choice.
I think they have a choice. I mean, they might, committee chair might not like an item on there, but just because they don't like an item on there doesn't mean it's not on strategic plan. The place to place that, display with an item on there or an objection to an item on there is during committee meetings. Maybe the recommendation on the committee is this isn't an appropriate thing for us to do. Just because it's on here doesn't mean that we are somehow obligated to do it. It's, I think, what our obligation, I view, our obligation is to investigate and look at getting details about what the item is and seeing if it's appropriate and feasible for the city of Findlay to undertake or implement.
Going back to the committee structure, that we would, we agree, or that the auditor and the administration representative would be advisory members, non-voting advisory members. I still think we need to have some kind of measure in case we have to duplicate, so that the number of committee members, voting members, stays the same. Just my thought. I don't know why, but that seems like it should be. I'm just on base. just-
Randy, you know what you should say.
I would think, I would love to have the administration. The mayor is fully appropriate as a elected representative. I disagree with the requirement that the chair of the strategic planning. I mean, what happens?
Not being chair.
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, one of the things, what if Randy, the go-getter, becomes the chair of water or sewer and appropriations and picks up streets and sidewalks too? So you have one person with three chairs. I mean, I mean, and this is the situation that you're kind of looking at right now, is that you're in essence
Right.
chair of both.
Well, take your own example. What do we do in that situation? Then all of a sudden the committee's down to 3 people. Because Randy, you know, he's ruling half the world.
Yeah,
You know that
Randy.
ain't gonna happen.
But
Yeah.
as a logistical issue, though, you know, how do we handle it?
Aren't all other standing committees set on an annual basis? You remember talking?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Oh, yeah, with the rules, correct. But that's when you guys are also setting the committees. So I think, why do we need to have, like, I guess, do we need a standardized process for determining the strategic planning members? Or can it be broad language that says the strategic planning committee be made up of 5 members of Findlay City Council as a whole, with preference towards the committee chairs of each standing?
Or kind of cobbling on to what you were saying there, further, each committee could be in charge of appointing somebody to the committee.
I just trying to make it easier.
No, I agree, Grant, it would make it easier, but that then solves a problem too. Because you wouldn't appoint the same person. So that would go to somebody else on the list.
Traditionally, we haven't had standing committees chaired by the same person. Did it at the end of last year. Well, strategic planning is a one-off. Did it at the end of last year because of the switch on the water and sewer, which is one of the reasons I dropped off of sharing plan and stuff like that.
Because I think that makes a lot of sense.
Because we work towards that.
There's a lot of reasons for that we should try to stick and not have duplicates for experience, but also workload. So, think
I
that
can
makes sense.
attest from last night's water and sewer committee meeting, there's gonna be a lot of work in doing these things. Yeah.
So how about I make a motion that the date going forward that council, so would this go to council's recommendation, see if they would approve it? Grant, you think? We would make this recommendation.
This is technically a change council rules. I could write up the change as desire. At the next meeting, council could, I can circulate,
Okay.
council could approve it. Or you could, you could submit this, you could have strategic committees. You could have this committee's, committee report if we do one. And accompanied with the, rule changes as appropriate. And have a vote on it at the next meeting. As a result of the vote.
With that, then I would make a motion that we recommend the council to change council's rules such that strategic planning committee would, going forward, be made up of a representative of each of the four standing committees, plus the administration representative as voting members, and
The administration has to be the mayor. It's stated because, if they're voting, the public didn't nominate Dave Hahn, or
Thank you.
vote for Dave Hans.
That's true. Very good point. So we need mayor. And with the auditor and HRPC representative as advisory committee, as advisory members. Anybody else? Again, I'm just trying to make sure we covered all the bases here. Anybody else, Mayor, you think should be advisory on here that we're missing out? We don't need legal. No,
Everything gets reviewed by them.
yeah,
I think that makes sense.
Park and Rec.
Regional planning, and I will sit on that, as well as a member from. Or. Yes, there's an appointee, another council member.
So. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
council's rules are only concerned about who the council representatives are on the committee. So currently it states we have a strategic planning committee, and council shall have 5 representatives on this committee selected as follows. And we have the, and then we have our criteria. All we're really talking about is saying, council shall have X number of representatives that will come from each of the standing committees. We don't state in our rules that the mayor has to be there or the auditor has to be there. That's done by.
Strategic planning committee charter, or whatever,
Yeah,
asked previously.
so I think what you're asking, what your motion would be is that you change it so it's reps of the 4 standing committees. You know, and you can also say plus a chair for the strategic planning committee. You have one of the 4 or 7 person.
I'm sorry, repeat that last one.
Well, right now we say there's 5 reps on strategic planning, 3 at large, 2 ward. But one has to be the chair of the appropriations committee. So now we're really just saying there's 4 standing committees. You want to call them strategic planning committee, the standing committee. You could also say it's 4+1. For no, 4+, it's from the 4 standing committees +1 will chair the.
Plus the chairman.
Yeah, plus
The
the chair.
chairman will be selected like we normally select chairman. Chair people first place.
Yeah. So for example, if we recommend you as chair of strategic planning, the appropriations committee could choose whether to add an additional representative. Or just because you also chair appropriations, say that's good enough.
No, I think I think you should have that number of members. Many members should be the same, regardless of what anything it is.
Well,
So
right now,
it's
we have,
5.
right now we have at 5.
Should be 5. So in that case, whoever the duplicate is, the appropriations, in this case, appropriation.
Yeah, so you would just make it say, the committee shall be, made up of 5 members of the city council, 4 of which shall be the chairs of the standing committees. Then you guys decide annually on that other unlucky person. I'm just kidding.
So we're up to the 4 standing committees plus a strategic planning chair.
So we got 5 total, plus the mayor's
Plus the mayor.
is
So that's
6 voting.
Yep.
And
You
auditor.
dropped it to 4, you, the mayor with 5, the city with mayor kind of votes. That's,
No,
you know, we have a tie vote, we just work through it. Times and the president, council chairs. I just heard John, well,
Yeah.
other comments?
your call.
I guess I'm okay with 5, 6 votes.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors in case of time, just in case of time, but we'll get that in our bylaws. Yes, please.
Now.
So what do we end up with there?
So
Each committee is,
the strategic planning will be made up of 5 total members, which will the representatives of the 4 other standing committees, and the chairman, the appointed chair of the strategic planning committee, plus the mayor will be the voting members, and then auditor and representative from HRPC will be advisory. Voting.
Are the, since the positions on council committees are determined by council rules, are those considered appointments? If not, you just need to use a different word of appointed chair. So chair, probably. One,
I guess it's not actually agreed, we vote on chairman.
Yes.
so probably just selected instead of appointed, because it could be taken as the council, president, Harrington, or myself choose the chair. So don't just use superintendent language.
For your agreement, right? Yep. Okay. Good. Questions? That's my motion. Do I have a second? Second. Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing as there's no further discussion, All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Very good. I'll write that up and get it to you all. I think with your all permission, I think we will then forego any further jumping into things at this point in time. Let's digest that through council. Come back, start into stuff.
Good, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I think you said HRPC was there in the advisory,
Yes,
and what about the water?
advisory.
Advisory.
Yeah, auditor and HRPC.
HRPC, all right.
advisory.
We'll have another meeting. We'll wait 2 months.
That's not.
It's not.
I will
Well,
not.
if this passes, I mean, you don't, you're off the hook unless you get selected as chair of. You can be off the hook, yeah.
That'd be good. That'd be all right.
You're always still welcome. It's an open meeting.
I could sit on a couple of,
Very good.
you want to meet every other month, or twice a month? Just to move things along or not?
Well, I think we need to get this passed and then let the new committee have some voice on how it moves forward and determine meeting time. But I would say, once that is determined, it would be my recommendation that we try to meet frequently for at least a little while to get the game plan, to start getting these worked out a little bit more.
Very good. With the committee's approval, I will write on our meeting sheet that the auditor decided not to take part in today's meeting.
I think we have it documented in the meeting
Right.
minutes.
That's documented in the minutes. So, all right. Anything else?
I,
Very good. We'll call an end to this meeting.
Very good.